put the microphone on as well, so you can hear me. Right, we'll go through the agenda. First item, apologies for absence. What have we got?
I have apologies from Councillor Nigel Emery.
Okay, we know Joy Dennis is held up on a train at the moment. Okay, thank you. The minutes, hopefully you've all read the minutes. Has anyone got any amendment they require? If not, we'll take that as the minutes being approved. Do you agree? Thank you. Right. Are there any declarations of members' interests? No. No. Okay. So we'll move on to announcements. We've got a few. I'll first of all start with my personal ones. Just quickly, this is to do with the training I've completed. I've completed now the LGA courses on local government finance and introduction to audit committee. I recommend all members on this committee undertake these LGA e-learning courses if you haven't already done so. I'm also booked on a weekend course, Leadership Essentials for Audit Committee, for the 18th and 19th of January next year. That's at Warwick. That's really pleased my wife because it's our wedding anniversary, but never mind. I also attended the Regional Audit Committee called RAC, R-A-C, on the 23rd of July. We were given a presentation on audit status, backlog and balance sheet measures. And that was to do with the authorities within the Southeast, basically. There are a number of issues. Now, what I'll do, I've now received the presentation. I will forward that to the members of the committee after this meeting. Now, if we move on to this bit here, members will note that item 8 on the agenda contains an exempt item, which is Appendix B on page 49 of the private agenda pack. The Director of Resources will present his report and Appendix A, which can be discussed. I will then propose we go into an exempt session. Any members of the public will be asked to leave, which there's not many here. There's none here. They may well appear. And the audio minutes and YouTube recording will be paused at that time. At the end of the discussion in relation to Appendix B, we'll then go back into the public session and finalise the noting of that agenda item. Right, okay, so let's move on to agenda item number 5, update on progress on the external audit, annual audit. This is to receive a verbal update on progress on the annual audit report for 23 to 24 from the external auditors, who I believe are present on Zoom.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just give a brief update. So following the presentation of our audit plan to the committee, we're currently undertaking our procedures on the year-end accounts. The audit is in full swing at the moment, working with officers to address points which are kind of arising from the audit. Key areas which are currently in progress relate to work on capital, so valuations, the pensions, and also on completing work on our journals testing. So that's just an overview of where we are on the 23-24 audit, but happy to take any questions if members have any.
Any members? Paul King?
Thank you, Chair. I guess it's really just a general question about whether there are any issues from the work to date that you feel the committee should be aware of.
No issues that want to bring to the attention of the committee at this stage, Chair.
Any further questions for the auditor? No. Okay, is any? No, I think that's it. So thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, if you could just hang on for the next item as well, please.
Sure, will do.
Thank you very much. So we move on to item 6, Statement of Accounts 2022 to 23, to receive an update from the Director of Resources.
Thank you, Chairman. So you'll have seen the letter that I received from EY regarding how we sort of clear up, I suppose, the 2022-23 accounts. Obviously, you've just heard about the 23-24, but they can't be signed off until 22-23 is out of the way. And the letter from EY set out a number of steps that we need to achieve on both sides, actually. So the auditor will have to do various steps, and also as the council, we have to do various steps. Some of those had already been done. So the earlier steps in terms of preparing the accounts, we had those ready. We've advertised those. We've done the annual governance statement. So there are a number of things that we've already ticked off, and we will obviously need to update. And then we sort of reached the stage where we're waiting for the external auditor to pass all that information across. Everything's been updated. I believe we've done the various points. So I get asked a series of questions by the auditor, the monitoring officer does, internal audit does, the chairman of the audit committee also does. So we've done as much as we can, we think, so far. The deadline that we've got here is the 14th, I think it is, of December, 13th of December, sorry. And it asks us to approve the accounts before the end of December. We have an audit committee programmed in for the 4th of December, which you may have noticed we are now trying to pull back a week to the 27th. Thank you. I should have written that down, shouldn't I? 27th of November, the week before, so that we can bring everything together, you know, from the auditor side and our side, and sign off on, hopefully, potentially that day, to approve the accounts, to approve the opinion being given to us, the disclaimed opinion by the external auditor, and wrap everything up in the timelines that they are requesting. And that is so far at the moment the latest sort of plan to wrap that up.
Okay, thank you. Any further points or questions for the Director? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just wondered if all of these dates that are in September, have all these things now been completed?
Yes, they have. Yes.
So everything that was due for September is now done.
Yes.
Councillor Enstone.
Have we identified any risks associated with achieving this deadline of the 27th, my birthday gift, the 27th of November? I'm allowed to say that.
Put that down then.
But are there, I mean, we've got to hit this particular date, but
Yes.
have we identified any risk of meeting that deadline? There's nothing that we think we won't be able to hit that deadline.
No. At the moment, we think we have done everything we need to do. We think that the external auditor will also be able to aim and achieve that date. As we get closer to that, something may emerge, but at the moment, I'm not horizon scanning something that we think is going to derail that process. We're ready for it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, sounds pretty confident. Yeah, Sam, do you have any comments regarding this?
So just in terms, just kind of general comments from me. So what we have is we've got a team centrally working on the procedures which we need to undertake in accordance with international standards on auditing in order to kind of issue a disclaimed opinion. So there's one team working on a number of local government bodies that are impacted on it, which we audit. So hence Dom has received a letter from Maria Grindley, who's heading up that particular team. Members may be aware that the FRC is also intending to issue some guidance soon, and MHCLG are organising webinars in terms of the reset of local government, the local government audit market, which members may be interested in attending. When we have the one item which members also may be of interest is exactly what the wording of a disclaimed opinion may contain. We're still working through that and awaiting some FRC comment in respect to that. And once we have that draft opinion, we will be sharing it with Section 151 officers and audit committee members.
Thanks. Thank you very much. No further comments by members? No. Thank you. Thank you for coming along to the meeting, Sam.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Bye then.
Bye. Okay, we can now move on to this. Agenda item 7. This is to consider the report of the Chief Internal Auditor. We are asked to note the report and to consider if any further action is required. So, you ready?
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to summarise the Orbis Internal Audit team's work on behalf of Horsham District Council and our performance for the first quarter of this financial year. So you will see from the main body of the report, we've issued 2 audit reports during Q1, and by issued, I mean they're finalised. One is on play area inspections and the other was on mobile device management. Both achieved an audit opinion of reasonable assurance. I wasn't going to go through them in any detail, but I'm happy to take questions afterwards. We also completed a grant return, which was, it marks the end of essentially the COVID funding to manage the outbreak. And there were absolutely no issues with that. And we also issued an audit report with no audit opinion. So we term that a position statement on property decarbonisation. The difference is we don't agree actions with management, but we will list a number of next steps that we believe would be helpful. We will keep tracking that. And we have been monitoring the delivery of the property decarbonisation programme, and that will continue. We may include another audit of property decarbonisation in next year's plan once the delivery of the programme is properly underway. We have added a new audit to the audit plan. I mean, I've spoken to you previously about the flexibility that we keep in the internal audit plan. And we believe that food waste collection, we agree with senior management of the council that food waste collection, the introduction of it for residents in particular, is a bigger risk to the council. So we will audit that project imminently. That will actually happen during Q3 to help inform some of the decisions that then, or the papers that are presented to Cabinet and Council. I did want to draw your attention to paragraph 4.4. So this was in response to our last committee to try and increase transparency a bit. What I've done is set out the audits that were in progress, but did not meet the Q1 deadline. And you can see two more reports have actually been issued as a final. You will receive summaries of those in the Q2 report. I can tell you that the next 2 cash and bank and member interests have also been issued as final reports now. And accessibility, Horsham Museum, Swan Walk Car Park and Warnham Nature Reserve are all ongoing. They will all be issued as draft reports within the next quarter. So that's to try and give you an idea that while there may be fewer reports reported in full, there is actually a lot of background work going on when we write these reports. In terms of internal audit's performance, we're broadly green. The 2 areas where we're amber are on the delivery of the plan and the days. Now that's fairly typical for Q1. If you look back through previous years, you'll find that we tend to be slightly under. That's to do with carry forwards, it's to do with timings. And I have to mention, we obviously had the general election. So internal audit agreed with the council for 2 weeks to pause all audit work because everyone was busy dealing with the general election. we are now back on track, and when you receive the Q2 report, you'll see the figures are coming back up to where we'd expect. I don't believe that there's a risk to delivery of the plan at this point. So it's a very quick run through, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to welcome Belinda, Councillor Belinda. She snuck in, I totally saw her there. I've got a couple of questions, some points on this, particularly with decarbonisation. So yeah, it's noted that a formal project methodology had not been adopted. Now, we've got a target for 2030 for the council to be net zero. Now, this could have an impact on the financial side of the council, but we don't know how much it is at the moment. I was wondering if we could, for the next possible audit meeting, ask for the head of property to actually give us a report on that. Okay, thank you. Okay, any further questions? Richard?
Mine was very much on the same lines as yours, Mr. Chairman, on 1.15 risk management. This was on decarbonisation as well. That we need to better facilitate identification of the biggest threats to the project, and we're also looking at financial planning could also be improved with costs, updated cost estimates on definitive list of properties within the project. Very much like to see that.
Yeah, same here. Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Brown.
Section 1.15 risk management arrangements could be strengthened to better facilitate identification of biggest threats to project delivery and allow mitigation action to be taken in a timely manner. There are two key projects at the moment. One is capital and the movement or moving to a new facility. And I did think when I saw the risks that were weak on the risks, identifying the risks. And I think we've been mindful that we should never have an issue that hasn't been a risk. And so I think it's important that we do strengthen that risks within our risk register for those projects.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just, I can add a couple of comments actually around these, and that all, I'm sure that the head of property can give you a full update. Just to explain that the no project methodology, that's not to say there wasn't some sort of framework in place. It's just that the recognised agile, scrum, waterfall, all of those sorts of things that get adopted have not been adopted. Well, they had not at the time of our audit, but there were documents in place. It's just our view is project methodologies exist for a reason, and we suggested they might want to adopt one of the major project frameworks. Agreed, the risk management, I'm sure we can give an update. We do, I can confirm that corporately we do review project risk registers as well. So they're not invisible, it's just that we believe this project is big enough that it should highlight, elevate them a bit more. In terms of the capital, which you will receive a full summary of next time, I can actually tell you we have audited that as a project, and they have an extremely strong framework in place. So actually we could probably use that as a good practice for others to learn from within the council. You will receive the updates on that at our next meeting because that report has been issued.
Okay, thank you. That's positive news.
So just ask a question if I may. Do they know, has it been decided yet which they're going to use? They're going to use Prince 2 and the waterfall, they're going to use Agile. Which one do they?
I don't know. We'll have to obtain those updates.
Okay. Right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so no more questions on internal audit. So we're asked to note the report. And I think we can agree that we've noted it. Okay, and we can move on to item number 8, risk management, a quarterly update. So again, to receive a report from the Director of Resources.
Thank you. So 3 new risks have been added to the risk register. one on the office move that we've just mentioned, and one, in fact, on the domestic food waste collection, both of which are in the papers, and both are large projects and therefore warranting a place on the corporate risk register. There is one that is exempted, as we've discussed. We won't talk about that one now until we move to the exempt session, but obviously we can talk about that once we move to the exempt position. Otherwise, the red risks remain the same. One that you won't see next time, in fact, will be the election one, and we've got to remember and bear in mind that this was written for the end of the quarter, which is just before the election. Obviously, that election is now passed, and that risk will be sort of deactivated for a little while. It will be reactivated for the county council elections, which are in May next year, so we'll probably see it sometime in the new year, but we'll give it a rest for the next couple of sessions. Otherwise, they are largely the same sort of risks that you've seen before, but happy to take any questions on anything new or existing.
Um, 13, the challenging processes requirements during the general election are their own, excuse me, sorry, are they our own internal processes or ones that are external to us that we have to actually work by?
Part of the biggest risk is the geographical area and getting some of the boxes in from other authority-led presiding officers into us. So some of it was about managing things that aren't necessarily within our direct control. Hence, it was probably a little bit redder than it would have been normal.
Thank you, Chair. On the benefit subsidy risk, I know that there's sort of two sort of large errors which pushed up the error rate. Is there anything the council can do, for example, doing some more testing of its own to try and reduce what otherwise is quite a significant error rate, or is it kind of, it is what it is?
In a perverse way, the best way to reduce the error rate is not to do quite so much quality assurance testing and finding those errors in the first place and identifying them, which sounds a little bit odd, but we have reviewed and checked and done the right thing, if you like, by doing so to try and prevent those errors from happening again. But some authorities could, if you were sort of being a little bit sort of Machiavellian about it, look less and find less, and therefore you'd have a lower error rate. Of course, you run the risk then, of course, when the audit happens, that those are then found in the samples and extrapolated. So we believe we are doing the right thing by finding those errors now. Are we learning the lessons from every time we find an error in a particular area? Are we then applying that and learning and preventing those errors from happening again? I believe we are. The difficulty with benefits is that it is so complex. Things change all the time. It is very, very difficult not to make an error. And therefore, a large part of this is we are probably identifying things correctly as errors because we make errors, and every authority will make errors.
I think what I'm taking from that is that actually you don't think that those two errors are, if you like, atypical or unrepresentative, and therefore, the amount of testing you've done actually has indicates what you think is likely to be, if you like, the true error rate.
I think we're trying to split it into two different sections. So historical errors, are in there somewhere, aren't they? They aren't errors that the new Milton Keynes Authority led team have actually made those errors. They have been in there since the previous existence, which is why we left there. There are no doubt there will be somewhere in there more of these errors. We just haven't identified them yet, and without combing through every single case, which is a massive task to do, we are only finding these when we revisit something for a change or something. The ones under COVID, which was the second one, is the force of the circumstance. It was a very difficult time for the service, and I'm sure, you know, every authority suffered in that particular area. We had temporary staff, we had staff with COVID not working, we had, you know, all the worst sort of case scenarios. So I'm not surprised that there were errors in that period. We are focusing, I suppose, on the current arrangements and trying to improve cases that we are now doing now, making sure that they are better. And so the historical stuff that's in there, we will find a little bit more of. We're trying to eradicate the new stuff that we can make a difference to.
We've got the budget coming up in, oh, sorry, Richard. I'm doing my news. We've got the budget coming up this coming month, in October. It could be a big impact depending what they consider, how they're going to provide the funding for the coming year and years after. Whether they go from multiple year settlements, single year settlements, or even redistribute the funding to other councils that are not doing so well as ours. So have you got any opinions on this, Tom?
I haven't got a crystal ball that will tell us the answers. So we have scenarios, don't we? We have good best case scenarios, worst case scenarios, and something in the middle. I would like to hope that government would not take away all our funding in one go without any sort of consultation. So I am hopeful that we may see a reduction in funding, but one that we can cope with. We will only know, of course, after the 30th of October, and actually potentially not even then. It may well be that they only really tell us the numbers at our settlement date, which is often in the middle of December for the forthcoming year. I suspect we won't get a multi-year settlement because in the past, historically, there's always been some sort of consultation to give some feedback opportunities. And I think that there isn't quite enough time to do that before December. So I suspect that they will do that at some point in the spring, summer next year, give everyone 2 or 3 months to be able to feedback and prepare themselves for what is coming along the line over those next 3 or 4 years.
That's the same again, really. What worried about obviously 04 and 05. In both cases, you're talking about possible larger deficits throughout the MPTF. But again, how much is that crystal ball?
It is a little bit. We can only be prepared, can't we? We can only undertake work that we have done this financial year to try and identify savings and income to minimise the sort of the impact should it be worse than we think it will be. And I think that's good practice to do so. I don't think we can sit here and think, oh well, it won't happen to us. I think it will do. It's just a case of how much and when, and we'll only find that out when we're told.
One would hope now we have a Labour government and it's most of the Labour councils that are in trouble, but they might actually throw some money our way.
Well, we'll wait and see, I think. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask something about something that there's been media coverage of, various things which may or may not happen in the budget. For example, the single person discount may or may not be, retained. Presumably, if it was to be abolished in some way, shape, or form, that would have a significant impact on the council. But of course, that's rather speculative. But on the local plan, again, I've seen coverage of housing numbers being revised over the summer, and for this authority, I think they were substantially increased. So again, are those new numbers, targets, however you want to describe them, are they being reflected in the way that we're approaching our local plan and the risks associated with it?
So I don't have a planning background, so my answer here will probably not be right. So rather than say something in a public forum that that won't be correct, I can get you more of an answer to that, a fuller answer, a response to that, and circulate it to the committee. My broad understanding, though, is that actually having set off the sort of the local plan process with water neutrality, etc., we will be able to, fingers crossed, subject to the planning inspectorate, etc., sort of land on our numbers rather than the ones that are, you know, much larger. Quite happily be corrected if that's not the case.
Yes, our regulation 19 document has been submitted and it's based on the NPPF from September 23. And because it's been submitted, we think there shouldn't be any revision of numbers. That's my understanding of it at the moment.
Can I just pick up on the council tax removal of the single person discount, which could lead to authorities getting more money, couldn't it, in that way? I suspect, though, that that's a lever the government might be able to use to say, well, actually, we don't need to give you so much centrally. So anything that we gain over here, we will probably lose over there. It's just the funding is coming from a slightly different source. So I don't see that necessarily as, you know, more advantageous than before.
Okay, thank you.
Just another thing. I don't know if anybody's heard anything about it, but at the moment we have a cap on how much we can increase the council tax. It's a possibility they get rid of that.
Yeah, currently it's 2.99%, I believe. If the cap can be broken if you go for a referendum, as the current position. But it'd be interesting to see if that is changed. Any further comments? Okay. We'll take it as that we've noted the report. And we'll move on to item 9, which is the Treasury. Oh, sorry, my apologies. I've got to do Appendix B. I've got which is the exempt item. Now, as chairman, I move that under section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the press and public be excluded from the meeting for this item of business on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act by virtue of paragraph 3 brackets information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person in further brackets, including the authority holding that information. And in all the circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Warwick. Shall we vote on the motion to exclude the following from press? Okay, that's
Motion's passed.
Motion's passed. So we're now back in public session. Right, so we can now move on to item number 9 on the agenda, which is the Treasury Management and Prudential Indicators. Again, for noting.
Just take this back. I think.
Okay, going back to item 8, we just want to make sure that we agree that when we've noted the previous agenda item number 8 for the risk management quarterly update. All agreed? Okay. Get the hang of this eventually. Okay, so we're on item number 9 now, the Treasury Management and Prudential Indicators report. And we receive another report from the Director of Resources. Oh, it's going to be Sam this time giving us a report.
Thank you, Chair. So this report was sent to the committee by email on the 9th of August. This is the next available meeting after the date the report was sent to you, and it is on the agenda for completeness. You should have all received it. And does anyone have any questions?
I have one question, if I may, first of all. Sorry. Yeah, I just note that obviously we have no external debt, and we had 79 million at 31st of March, which is a big increase from the 72 million we previously had. Can you give us a reason why that's? Oh, good, thank you.
So we received 5.6 million in government grants from, I've got DLUC here and MHCLG, depending on what it was at the time, which included 2.2 million for food waste collection, capital sum, and we had a high level of other payments in throughout the first quarter. So some rates were paid and some council tax as well.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Richard?
How much are we actually holding for other authorities of precept?
So we, I don't know the exact timing of this, but we collect it and then we send it out only a few days after the bulk of the money comes to us. So if we run, for example, a direct debit on the 1st of the month, a few days later we will pass it. Now, I don't know how much at this particular moment in time we'd have to go away and work that bit out, but we don't sit there on top of lots of other people's money for the council tax and NNDR. We try and passport that regularly throughout the year back to the preceptors.
We do hold a lot of 106 money.
Yes, we do.
Any further questions? Okay, so we've noted this report. All agree? Thank you. Well, we go on to item 10, which is a subsidiary housing company accounts. Again, this is going to be the Director of Horsham District Homes Limited. Sam is going to give us a report on this.
Thank you, Jeff. This time I am a director. So the report provides you with an update on the financials of the housing companies, and the latest set of draft accounts are included in the appendix. The companies have their own auditors who are based locally. We have a closing meeting with the company's auditors arranged for next week on the 25th of September, when the accounts will be finalised, and then they'll go on to be approved by the Board of Directors. I'll just give you a brief update of how the companies are performing, or were performing, to the 31st of March. So Horsham District Homes Limited, this is the development company. There hasn't been much activity. We're focusing on 2 sites, which are Duke Square and London Road. Duke Square is a development of 10 affordable homes that has been through the pre-application process and will be submitted to planning soon. Plans for London Road are being reconsidered to optimise the use of the space. During the year, there were general operational running costs such as recharges for officer time which resulted in a reported loss for the year. And then we have Horsham District Homes Holdings Limited, which has more activity in this company as it lets the properties. The company continued to receive rental income for the 8 affordable homes in Slimfold and Billingshurst. There was an independent revaluation of the housing stock, resulting in an increase in value of 733,000 and a deferred tax liability of 183 in relation to this increase. During the year, the company also entered into lease agreements with the council to enable the letting of 16 local authority housing fund homes for Ukrainian and Afghan refugees. And again, there are operational running costs for management time as well as repairs and maintenance in this company, but the income exceeded the cost, so there was a net profit for the year. Any questions?
Okay. Thank you for the report. First of all, I'd like to welcome Councillor Joy Dennis, who's just arrived through no fault of her own, but because of late trains. Thank you. On this item which we've just heard, are there any questions and or comments? Paul?
Made to not group accounts because we know into that been discussed with the
It's been discussed with the auditors. We've prepared several group assessment working papers for consolidation. At the moment, it's still with them for consideration, but the council's view is it's not significant to the operations of the council.
The deferred tax liability, presumably 5% that's corporation tax.
Yes.
And it's only payable were the properties to actually be sold, and therefore the gain then be realised or crystallised at that point.
Yes, that's when the profit would be realised and the tax would be due.
And then come from
Yep.
the sector, there's a that's the investment 300 a day. I couldn't quite see what exactly that was in respect. See the number, but I just what actually is it.
So that's the development company, and they receive the shareholding from the council. As there's no development at the moment, we've invested that money.
Okay, any further questions on this report? Richard? Oh, sorry. Sure.
Yes, I did. I'm just trying to track my notes that I made. So on, let me have a look at this. I suppose what I was sort of thinking about was the revaluation gain. The revaluation is taking place 3 yearly, or is it 1 yearly?
It's every 5 years by an
Every 5
independent
years.
valuer.
So it's
Yeah.
every 5 years. I suppose the question I've got is, or when I looked at it, I just wondered if the maintenance allowance or made them to transfer to the maintenance reserve was sufficient, and had that been reviewed by the auditors to see whether that I felt that was going to be sufficient.
It is reviewed by the auditors, yes.
Yeah, because it seemed quite low to my mind, but
It will, yeah, it's a build up, so we don't draw from it unless there are major repairs. So, but the houses are new builds.
yeah,
so,
I know they are,
yeah.
but we can all get caught out, can't we?
Yeah.
And I suppose then the other point that I was going to ask was, I couldn't find it. My job's been shaking around a bit. Is release of profits back to the council. How would that happen?
That would be a dividend when there is.
Yeah, I know
sufficient-
that, yeah, but is there a policy around that?
I'm not sure. I think we looked at it when we got the council looked at it when it received the legal advice, but
So there isn't
When-
any sort of policy at the moment about when
No.
the council should take dividend?
I suppose in its embryonic stages that it is, there's a decision to be made, isn't there, whether you take the dividend out now or you reinvest that into more houses. From a council perspective, I want this, company to grow and have more houses in there. So do we need the money now? Do we need it later?
Don't disagree. It's just,
Decision to be
is
had.
there a policy somewhere which actually states that? That's what I wondered.
But I believe so. We will clarify that though, as to exactly how that process would work in theory, and we can update you.
I just thought there should be a policy really around it. That's what I thought. Okay, and there was one other point, but can I just go back to the notes? Bear with me, so sorry. Where's the paper? Right, so I just wanted to know, when did the company enter into the lease agreement with the council enabling the letting of 16 properties to the Ukrainians and Afghan refugees? When was that actually?
So each individual property is on its own lease, so they sort of drip feed through. It was around about, it would have been October, November 2023, so it's only a part year.
22, 23.
Oh, sorry, 23, 24.
And but it's 16 properties in total that's happened to.
In that year, yes.
In
And
that
there's
year.
been a further 2 since then. But
And right, okay.
Yeah.
And how many properties is there altogether? Sorry.
there will be 24, 25 properties.
Like, yeah, it's all right, I've got the feel. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions regarding this?
My question is probably for the planners, really. Why can't we get on with these 10 in Duke Square?
I don't think we have anyone here at the moment to respond to that, except for Sam possibly. So it's gone to the pre-application stage. So obviously we're waiting for it to come in.
I know there were the bat surveys and things like that, because the garages aren't in use. It's the empty garage site. So there've been some surveys being taking place.
Thank you. Okay, any further comments or questions regarding this report? Okay, we'll take it as noted. All agreed? Thank you very much. Now, the next item is any urgent business. I'm not aware of any urgent business. Does anyone else want to bring up an item for consideration as urgent business to this committee?
Not urgent business, but just wondered if we can have an update on the sale of Swan Walk.
It could any of the officers give us an update on the sale of Swan Walk?
I don't believe it's gone through yet. I don't know enough of the detail to be able to sort of give you a fuller answer than that, but I haven't heard, may well have happened, but I haven't heard that it has actually completed.
Okay. Any other items? Okay, I'll bring to the meeting to a close at the time of 6:23. Thank you very much, everyone.